Doesn't this flower look amazing? This beautiful flower smells so good. It's so easy to grow that it even became my garden's nightmare. Let me show you what happened after I planted this Cashmere Bouquet. Here's one right by the house, some more right by the house. We're about 20 to 25 feet away from the original site, and look at this. This sucker popped up. It even shot up on the other side of the house. Let's cut this and bring it somewhere we can sit down and have a chat. Just in case if you do plan on clicking out of this video, the one thing I really want you to take away from this is to never, ever, ever plant this and allow the roots to touch the ground. It is super invasive. In this video, I want to share with you guys the history of this flower, how to take care of it, the good and the bad news about growing this, and of course, I gotta share with you the eco-friendly ways and how you can deal with invasive plants. The Cashmere Bouquet is native to the cooler subtropical parts of China. You can also find them in parts of northern India. You can see it's got this beautiful blush pink or light pink colored mini rose-like that forms in a cluster like a ball, and the florets dry out really quickly. In just about 2 to 3 days they will start to dry out just like that, so you would get these fresh and dried blooms in a ball. Here's one that's still fresh as a bud, hasn't bloomed yet, and I can see why these are called cashmere. The leaves are very fuzzy, soft and fuzzy. It's kind of like, yeah, it feels like your cashmere sweater. No wonder it's called a cashmere bouquet. And the flowers, well, need I say more? It's a ball. It's a bouquet. It's absolutely beautiful. The Cashmere Bouquet eventually made its way to European and American gardens back in the Victorian era. This is also called Mexican Hydrangea. Although it is not hydrangea at all, but if you put it right next to my hydrangeas, I got these beautiful ones grown in different varieties. If I place them next to each other, don't they look similar? I mean, this just looks like another variety of hydrangea, right? You can see how it just gets lost in there. No wonder my neighbor just kept telling me she loves my hydrangea. She's like, oh, can I plant this in the ground? And I said, if I were to guess why this is called a Mexican hydrangea, even though it has no ties with Mexico whatsoever, is that it can be very adaptable, you know, in terms of how well they can do in the sun or with a little more lack of water compared to hydrangeas. I mean, most hydrangeas cannot tolerate that much sun, not as much as this. This somehow had learned to adapt. It's just a very hardy plant. The thing that's different about this plant is that it is so fragrant, and hydrangeas, it's beautiful, but too bad it just lacks a scent. Oh, this smells so good. It smells a lot like jasmine. Some people just pick up jasmine, but for me, it's stronger than jasmine. It has a little bit of like a gardenia smell also, or those night blooming jasmine. So not the sambac jasmine, but the different jasmine that has a little more stronger smell. These little flowers also remind me of the jasmine, the sambac jasmine, the variety called Duke of Tuscany. They look like double-petaled mini roses, and this is also the reason why I'm growing this one. Now, when I first got this plant, I was warned that it is invasive and they did not suggest me to plant it in the ground. So I did not plant it in the ground. I put it in a container, but little did I know, I kept the container on top of the, rocks, and these roots would find its way. They're so sneaky, I tell you. They would just shoot up from there and they grow everywhere. And I'm telling you, they're everywhere. The way these plants grow is through root suckers. That's one way how they propagate themselves. They found their way out through that pot, and this is where the root suckers are. It's underground, and then it shoot up wherever they can, and you got a whole new plant. When I discovered this flower, I was so excited about it because you can grow this in a pretty wide range of light settings, from part shade to a little more sun, whereas, hydrangeas, they can't handle as much sun as these flowers. This one can handle a wide range of moisture levels in your soil, as well as soil types and the type of lighting. Ideally, they do prefer to be grown in a little more shade, pretty much like your hydrangeas would. So the original site was growing in the north-facing spot. It found its way between the cracks of the rocks and went into the ground. About a year later, I noticed a couple of these little shoots peeking through. They pretty much start off and they look like this. They just kind of peek through, and I thought, no big deal. I can just pull them up and, toss it, because sometimes when you prune things, it's just so normal to have a couple of clippings that fall around different places, and maybe that's what happened and it set roots. But that was actually not the case. It's because of the way these roots grow. The first one I found was in about 10 to 12 feet away from the original site, and then I found one that's 20 feet from the original site. I'm even seeing them like on the other side of the house that's in a sunny location now. Just like the ones in the Arboretum, I discovered that they also have this, but they plant it in the ground, and they have a pretty good area of them, maybe like a 15 feet area, with them kind of growing up as clumps and as groups. And I've got to say, they did a pretty good job maintaining, meaning just to cut them back whenever there's, these suckers that come out at different places. But man, oh man, this thing is seriously invasive. But the beauty of this is that it grows so easily. You can just take a cutting out of it, root them, even just sticking it in soil. Once the stems touch the soil, it's going to set roots. They smell good. They're beautiful to look at. They bloom most times of the year. Once it starts to warm up a little bit in mid to late spring, they'll continue to bloom all the way through the start of winter. These plants are so easy to clip back, and they make really beautiful flower cuttings, right? So this is not only beautiful, but it's so easy to propagate, but that's also the danger of this plant. The good news about, even though they're invasive, is that they're nothing like tree roots. They're not woody. They're not strong and thick like that. They reach about between 4 to 8 inches deep in the soil. So much like the roots, the depth of your vegetables would, the roots of your vegetables. So they won't crack your concrete. They won't actually do any damage. Now that you've heard the good news and the bad news about growing this, let's talk about how you would handle this plant if it did become invasive. The first thing I would do is to never ever let it touch the ground. I would put a saucer under the container if I could go back in time, because this literally was just so sneaky. Like I said, whatever obstacles there are, they would just go around it to find their way up. Tip number 1 is to never even let this happen. Number 2 is, if you do see the one pop up, get to it right away. Don't let it go so far like I have. If you can actually dig it up, then do that. Here you can get a general idea of how deep these root suckers are. So it's not like tree roots, nothing crazy like that, but you still have to kind of dig for it if you can. No! At least cut to the very low to the ground, the lowest possible, just flush with the ground, so that it can starve the stems just by especially not having any leaves left. It won't be able to photosynthesize and keep growing. Sometimes a flat knife would work best, because you can't really get in there with a pruner, or just use a razor. Okay, this one, maybe I can actually do this now. Ouch, ouch, ouch. But we got it. So clippings or things that are removed from this plant, I actually put it in the community green bin, so that they can go through this heating process to compost them down. I don't put it in my own compost. And to get rid of it very effectively is that you would have to remove pavers or anything that's, covering it. You would have to get it out of the way to apply them and dig them up, and make sure you don't leave any pieces behind, because that is just going to allow it to propagate some more. But honestly, that is a very difficult method, especially for me now that the plant has really settled in and they're shooting up everywhere. But if you happen to see one that shoots up in a sunny location, you can even use like a tarp, put it on top to really smother it, and also to let sunlight do the job to really heat up that area.
Now, this method I just mentioned is called solarization. It's a way some farms control weeds by using heat. You wet the soil, cover it with a clear tarp, and weigh it down with bricks to trap heat. This only works in full sun, and it needs to stay on for several weeks. Ideally, all summer. The goal is to cook the root suckers and weed seeds with solar heat.
But keep in mind that it does take time to start to see, results. And you have to be consistent with it. And honestly, out of the methods I just shared, the one I use is to try to ply it up or dig it up. If not, I just cut it flush to the ground. And usually when I cut it back, I won't see it come back in that spot. So hopefully that does work. So would you grow this beautiful but invasive plant? Let me know in the comments below. And if you guys have any methods that you would like to share in how you deal with invasive plants, and what kind of invasive plants are you struggling with right now, I would love to know. Thank you so much, you guys, for making this part in the video. And if you would like to support this channel, I really appreciate it if you would check out wayneandlynn.com for plants and seeds. I will see you guys in the next video.